Hi everyone, and welcome to this grade 9 mathematics lesson where we will be exploring linear inequalities. My name is Miss Donnell Phillips. Let's get started. So what does inequality mean? An inequality is a statement that two numbers or expressions are not equal. So, an inequality is a statement that the relation between two quantities is not of equality. Therefore, we can say that one quantity is greater than or less than the other quantity. So when we think of inequality, all we should be thinking about is the opposite of two things being equal. So as long as they're not equal, it's either one is greater than the other or one is less than the other. We have four symbols that we usually use when we're talking about inequalities. And here we have those four symbols. The first symbol represents the less than sign, and we read this as is less than. The second symbol is read as is less than or equal to. The third symbol is more than, and the final symbol is more than or equal to. Now, during the course of this video, we're going to be seeing some circles. Some of them may be open and some of them may be closed. Now, when we are dealing with inequalities or inequations, we could either represent them on a number line or on a graph. In order for us to know what type of circles we're drawing, we need to know what each type of circle represents. If we're dealing with a closed circle, or if we see a closed circle on a number line, it usually represents the less than or equal to or the more than or equal to. If the circle is open, it just represents less than or more than. So again, closed circles represent less than or equal to or more than or equal to, and the opened circles represent less than or more than. So if we look at these number lines that we have here, we could see that some of the circles are open and some of the circles are closed. Take a few seconds and try to see if you could identify which number lines represent which inequality. Good. So the first one doesn't actually represent an inequality. It's just an equation. And the equation is x is equal to 4. X is equal to 4. Next, we have x is greater than or equal to 4 because it's a solid line with it's a solid circle rather with an arrow. The third one, we have x is greater than 4. It's not greater than or equal to, it's just greater than. So remember, as long as it's greater than or less than, we just use an open circle. The next one, x is less than or equal to 4. Less than or equal to, so we have to use a solid circle. And finally, x is less than 4. Because x is less than 4, less than, we have to use an open circle. Dotted or solid. Now, apart from us looking at the types of circles that we have, when we're graphing them, we also need to pay attention to the type of line that we use. As long as the lines are solid, it represents greater than or equal to or less than or equal to. As long as the lines are dotted, it represents greater than or less than. Again, solid lines represent greater than or equal to or less than or equal to, while the dotted lines represent greater than or less than. So here we have two examples. The first graph we could see that the line drawn there is a solid line. So it means that this line represents an inequality that has either less than or equal to or greater than or equal to. While the second graph has a line that is broken. And remember, broken lines means that the inequality contains either greater than or less than. So again, solid lines represent greater than or equal to or less than or equal to, and broken lines represent greater than or less than. So let's look at a few examples. The first example, 5 is greater than 2. Now this is a true statement because if we compare 5 and if we compare 2, we know that 5 is greater than 2 or 5 is more than 2 or 5 is bigger than 2. We could also switch this statement around and we could say that 2 is less than 5. That is also a true statement. So statements like these are considered to be equivalent. They're not written the same, but they mean the same thing. So 5 is greater than 2 or 2 is less than 5 is an example of an equivalent statement. Looking at the number line, this is how we would represent these two inequations, these two inequalities. If we want to write 5 is greater than 2, the first thing we would need to identify is what type of circle are we going to be using. That's the first thing. Because we're dealing with greater than and less than, would the circles be closed or will they be open? They're going to be open. So we just draw a little outline of a circle, we're not shading it. So looking at this, we draw a little circle at 2, and then we draw a little circle at 5, and we have the arrows to show the direction. Because we want 5 is greater than 2, we're going to draw the circle at 5, and then the arrow is going to be going in the direction of 2. And 2 is less than 5, we draw a little circle there at 2, and the arrow is showing that 2 is less than 5, so we're going to the right. So this is what these two inequalities look like when we represent them on a number line. In the next example, we have -3 is less than -1. And this is indeed a true statement because we know that -3 is indeed smaller than -1. We could also rewrite this statement as -1 is greater than -3. So it doesn't matter which way we decide to turn it. We could say -3 is less than -1, or we could say -1 is greater than -3. Again, both of these statements mean the same thing. They're equivalent. And because we're dealing with less than and more than, are we drawing open or closed circles? Open circles, we're not shading it inside. So we identify -3 on the number line and -1 on the number line also, and we just draw our arrows to represent the directions. So for your homework, the question is, are the following statements true? If yes, write their equivalent and represent it on a number line. The first one we have 8 is greater than 3, 14 is greater than 21, -6 is greater than 3, and 5 is less than 0. If these statements are true, write the equivalent and then represent it on a number line. So to summarize today's lesson, an inequality is a statement that the relation between two quantities is not one of equality. So inequalities just mean that either something is greater than something or something is less than something, but they are never equal. We use the symbols greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, or less than or equal to represent inequalities. On a number line, we use an open circle to represent more than or less than, and we use a closed circle to represent more than or equal to or less than or equal to. And on a graph, we use solid lines to represent more than or equal to and less than or equal to. And we use dotted lines to represent more than or less than. This has brought us to the end of this grade 9 mathematics lesson, where we would have explored inequalities. My name is Miss Donnell Phillips. See you next time.